gave Trump's travel ban a huge new gift. Good news for President Trump's travel ban: the Supreme Court just allowed a temporary lift of the ban's restrictions. Last week, the notoriously liberal Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals barred the government from refusing to take in refugees that are part of the U.S. refugee admissions program or have assurances from resettlement agencies. Justice Anthony Kennedy signed the order that temporarily blocked the Ninth Circuit's order, meaning the refugees in that category will continue to be barred. The Supreme Court's decision came 2 hours after Acting Solicitor General Jeffrey Wall filed a request for a stay. Wall's rationale for the stay is as follows: unlike students who have been admitted to study at an American university, workers who have accepted jobs at an American company, and lecturers who come to speak to an American audience, refugees did not have any freestanding connection to resettlement agencies, separate and apart from the refugee admissions process itself, by virtue of the agency's assurance agreement with the government. He continued, nor can the exclusion of an assured refugee plausibly be thought to burden a resettlement agency in the relevant sense. President Trump's travel ban is meant to prevent travelers from Iran, Libya, Somalia, Syria, Yemen, and Sudan from coming to the U.S. for 90 days. The Supreme Court will hear 2 cases challenging the ban on October 10. This is great news for the Trump administration. The challenges against the ban are clearly on shaky ground, and they're only getting shakier. Liberty writers will be following this case closely, so stay tuned, patriots. And don't forget to share. h/TMSN. When liberal reporter mentioned James Comey, Sarah Sanders brought the beat down. White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders did her thing Monday and brought the pain train bearing down on former FBI Director James Comey. A reporter from Reuters asked Sanders about Steve Bannon's 60 Minutes interview, in which he said the firing of James Comey was the biggest political mistake in modern history. As always, Sanders brought her A game, making sure everyone knows President Trump has no regrets. First, on the Comey firing, I think that we've been pretty clear what our position is. And certainly, I think that has been shown in the days that followed that the president was right in firing Director Comey. Then she reminded everyone exactly why Comey was fired, and the shady things he's done since then. Since Director Comey's firing, we've learned new information about his conduct that only provided further justification for that firing, including giving false testimony, leaking privileged information to journalists. He went outside of the chain of command and politicized an investigation into a presidential candidate. Boom baby. Then she hammers it home one more time for the people in the back. I think the president's been very clear about his position on that front. He's very pleased with the new director, and has full confidence in him to fully restore and lead the FBI. Watch her destroy the reporter here, whoop whoop. 3 cheers for Sarah Huckabee Sanders. No one sticks up for Trump the way she does, and no one does it with such tact. Share her sassy response at 50,000 times. h/T Real Clear Politic. The Pope just picked a fight with Trump he won't win. Look what he just did. President Trump rescinded DACA last week and the Pope is not happy with it. He says that if the president calls himself pro-life then he should reconsider DACA. The pontiff commented on his flight to Rome from Colombia and said that, although the decision is in Trump's hands, the issue should be rethought. The President of the United States presents himself as pro-life, and if he is a good pro-lifer, he understands that family is the cradle of life and its unity must be protected, Pope Francis said. The Pope also weighed in on Trump's border wall during the campaign and showed the world how much of a globalist shill that he is. I think this law comes not from Parliament but from the executive, Pope Francis said. If that is so, I am hopeful that it will be rethought. This comes right after White House chief strategist Steve Bannon went after church bishops for their attacks on Trump. Remember, the Pope said that a person who thinks only about building walls, wherever they may be, and not building bridges, is not Christian. This is not the gospel, said Francis in February. Share this if you think that the current Pope needs to stop attacking our president. It makes everyone respect him way less. Mike Pence and his wife just walked out into field, then did something heartbreaking. On the 16th anniversary of 9/11, Vice President Mike Pence credited the heroes of Flight 93 with saving tons of lives and maybe even his own. He said that the heroes that died in that field led to a rededication to our most sacred ideal of freedom. They were ordinary people, he said, but on that day, they became extraordinary. Pence then delivered a speech at the Flight 93 National Memorial close to Shanksville, Somerset County. "Look at the amazing thing," he said. "We are in the midst of a war between good and evil. The first battle in that war took place in the skies above us and ended in this grassy meadow," Pence said. He continued giving his amazing speech below. Hundreds of people were sitting below him, including the family members of those on Flight 93. Pence called the passengers and crew on the flight men and women who looked evil squarely in the eye and, without regard for their personal safety, rushed forward to save lives. They charged the cockpit and took hold of their fate. Pence then told the story of where he was on September 11. "It was the longest 12 minutes of my life, but it turned to 13 minutes, then 14. And then we were informed that the plane had gone down in a field in Pennsylvania," he said. "So for me, it's personal. It's a debt I don't think I'll ever be able to repay. Because among the many lives that were saved by their selfless courage, they might well have saved my own life that day 16 years ago. Spread this everywhere. Mike Pence is right. We are in a fight against evil. Don't let the lying mainstream media ruin this day and make it about attacking our current president. We are America. We will never back down and we will never fade from the face of history. God bless all the heroes that perished on September 11. Share this if you will never forget this day 16 years." Trump wins again. The Supreme Court just announced what will have Trump grinning from ear to ear. The Supreme Court just sided with President Trump again, regarding his travel ban, which he ordered to keep Americans safe from radical Islamic terrorists. Just last week, the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, which appears to like going against the president, issued a ruling that, in part, barred the government from preventing refugees that have formal assurances from resettlement agencies or are in the U.S. Refugee Admissions Program, from entering the United States. In short, the Ninth Circuit said, "Hey Trump, you can't stop these refugees from entering." Not surprisingly, Trump is working to change the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeal. Acting Solicitor General, Jeffrey Wall, filed a request for a stay of the Ninth Circuit's decision. Then, less than 2 hours later, the Supreme Court granted Trump's request. In short, the Supreme Court disagreed with the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals regarding whether to allow these refugees in. Courtesy of Washington News via YouTube.com, importantly, the Supreme Court's action is temporary. Justice Kennedy, who signed the order, said they are waiting for a response from Hawaii. Reports The Hill, a federal district court judge in Hawaii blocked Trump's order in March and further weakened it in July by including grandparents, grandchildren, brothers-in-law, sisters-in-law, aunts, uncles, nieces, nephews and cousins of people in the U.S. and refugees working with resettlement agencies in the definition of what constitutes a bona fide relationship. The Supreme Court sided with Trump on his travel ban in June, but carved out an exemption for people with a bona fide relationship with a person or entity in the United States. Way to go, SCOTUS. I'm sure Trump's appointment of Justice Gorsuch to the court has not hurt things there for Trump. If you agree, please comment "Way to go, SCOTUS" and share everywhere to brag about Trump's successes. H/T The Hill. Counter-strike right after Dems attack General Kelly, Kelly ripped them to shreds. John Kelly is a lot of things. He is a Marine, a general, a patriot, and he is the chief of staff. However, one thing he is not is a pushover who is gonna take shit from a bunch of crybaby Dems. Just last week, Representative Luis Gutierrez, DL, called Kelly a disgrace to the uniform after Trump repealed DACA. Oh, by the way, Gutierrez has never served in our military. Today Kelly struck back with something fierce. He said in a letter to Fox that Gutierrez and the rest of Congress don't do a damn thing to help this great nation. As far as the congressmen and other irresponsible members of Congress are concerned, they have the luxury of saying what they want as they do nothing and have almost no responsibility. They can call people liars, but it would be inappropriate for me to say the same thing back at them. As my blessed mother used to say, empty barrels make the most noise. Now those right there, those are the words of a warrior. Those are the words of a man with conviction in his action and country in his heart. Gutierrez could learn a thing or two in decency from Chief Kelly. In fact, that's exactly what we are gonna do. Let's get this out everywhere so anyone reading it can see how awesome of a job John Kelly is. Right after Michael Moore insulted Trump's Irma response, Don Jr. went into attack mode. Yeah, the left thinks they are just so smart when they constantly insult the president. Luckily he's got a lot of friends and a great family to come up to the plate and defend him from their wacko attacks. Progressive filmmaker Michael Moore decided to give his 2 cents about how the Hurricane Irma disaster response should be run, questioning why President Trump's Florida resort Mar-a-Lago hasn't been open as a shelter. This clearly makes no sense as Mar-a-Lago was in an evacuation zone and people who were sheltering there would have been in grave danger. Like a lot of leftists, Moore didn't seem to be thinking this one through. Donald Trump Jr. came back swinging, duh. You know, these leftists really make it too easy sometimes. The Washington Examiner reports that a Trump Organization spokesman said Mar-a-Lago was taking all of the proper precautions to ensure that everyone is kept safe and secure. Welp, that settles that. No doubt Moore will continue to spout whatever random mischaracterization he can think of and his followers will all still believe. That's why we're trying to get this shared 50,000 times to combat leftist misinformation. H/T Washington Examiner